Most self-improvement advice is secretly destroying you. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. People have been told to wake up early, read more, meditate, exercise, plan their day, set goals, and repeat. They follow it all, thinking this will change their life. But months later, they feel stuck, frustrated, exhausted. Nothing has changed. Why? Because most advice isn't designed to help you grow. It is designed to make you feel busy, while the real patterns controlling your life go unnoticed. Imagine a man climbing a mountain. Every day he takes a step forward. Some days are easier, some days are harder. He is motivated, disciplined, determined. Now imagine another man climbing the same mountain, stumbling over the same rocks every day. He blames the mountain, blames himself, sometimes stops entirely. Most people are like that second man. They move, yes, but without awareness, without understanding, without correcting the small, invisible habits that silently control their lives. The first reason people fail is fraud. They try to add more without fixing what is already broken. They hear a motivational speech or read a book and feel inspired. Suddenly, they try to start 10 new habits at once. Wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, work out, plan their day, read, journal. Motivation feels high at first, but the mind resists. Ego rebels. Distractions win. Within days or weeks, most people give up. The truth is simple. Small, uncorrected habits from your past are stronger than any new habit you try to build. Let me tell you a story. Maya wanted to improve her life. Every morning she would make long to-do lists, read books, and watch motivational videos. She was motivated, passionate, and determined, yet every evening she felt exhausted, guilty, and defeated. Why? Because she ignored the subtle habits controlling her life, reacting emotionally to small problems, procrastinating on tasks she feared, endlessly scrolling her phone. Her big actions felt impressive, but they didn't fix her core patterns. Her life stayed the same, and she felt trapped. Another reason people fail is they ignore the quiet rules of the mind. Thoughts, triggers, and automatic reactions run silently in the background. If those commands are poorly coded, negative thinking, impulsive reactions, procrastination, no new habit can overwrite them. Awareness is the first step. Observation is the tool. Small, intentional adjustments are the real work of self-improvement. And here's something important. As you listen to this, your English fluency is improving naturally. You are absorbing sentence structures, patterns, and simple expressions effortlessly. At the same time, your understanding of why knowledge and better thinking are critical is growing. These two forces, language and awareness, compound quietly, transforming your mind and life. Another hidden reason people fail is underestimating delayed consequences. Tiny choices repeated daily, avoiding responsibilities, wasting small moments, reacting emotionally, seem harmless. But over months and years, they compound into life-defining patterns. People chase motivation and instant wins while ignoring these subtle, slow-building forces. That's why effort alone rarely produces results. Self-discipline is misunderstood. Many think it is harsh, restrictive, or punishing. Real discipline is freedom. The freedom to pause, choose intentionally, and protect your energy. Every time you react impulsively, give in to distractions, or chase every impulse, you surrender your power. Discipline allows deliberate action. It is this tiny pause, this moment of awareness, that separates people who grow from those who stagnate. Most people fail because they are reactive, not proactive. They wait for motivation, the right time, or external validation. But life doesn't wait. Opportunities pass. Moments disappear. Momentum starts when you act, no matter how small. That momentum compounds into clarity, confidence, and growth. Let me give another story. Arjun tried to improve every Monday. He promised himself to be disciplined, productive, and motivated. By Wednesday, he was back to old habits: procrastination, distraction, reacting emotionally, blaming circumstances. He blamed himself, the world, and lack of motivation. What he didn't realize is that motivation is temporary, consistency and awareness are permanent. Only when he paused, observed his patterns, and adjusted small behaviors daily did he begin to see real change. The steps were tiny, almost invisible, but over time, they transformed his life. Another reason people fail is information overload. Reading, watching, and consuming endlessly creates the illusion of growth. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. Insights remain ideas. Ideas remain thoughts. Thoughts without implementation produce nothing. Real learning converts understanding into action consistently applied. Many people fail because they let emotions control them. Fear, anger, frustration, jealousy, these dictate choices, drain energy, and create chaos. Observing emotion without surrendering to it allows calm, clarity, and intentional action. Emotional mastery is rare, but transformational. Patience is another overlooked skill. Growth is slow, quiet, often invisible day by day. Tiny improvements repeated consistently compound into massive results over months and years. People quit when they don't see instant change, never realizing that quiet, steady effort is unstoppable. Self-trust is critical. Confidence isn't built from one-time success. It is built by keeping promises to yourself, following through despite doubt, and acting consistently. Every fulfilled commitment strengthens trust. Every broken promise erodes it. Self-trust is the foundation of lasting improvement. Here is the hidden key. The quality of your thinking shapes the quality of your life. Consuming knowledge matters only if your thinking changes. Better thinking leads to better choices, better habits, and better outcomes. Knowledge without reflection is a tool never used. Insight turns theory into transformation. Let me tell you about Raya. She had books, motivation, and knowledge. Yet she reacted impulsively, never reflected on her actions, and struggled to improve. Once she started observing habits, pausing before reacting, and reflecting daily, she noticed steady improvement. Success came not from doing more, but from doing intentionally and consistently. Focus is another invisible power. Distractions silently steal energy. Social media, gossip, endless noise, these scatter attention and drain motivation. Attention is energy. Protect it. What you repeatedly focus on compounds into results over time. Some of this may feel overwhelming. Change doesn't happen all at once. It happens one small choice at a time. One corrected reaction, one intentional pause, one small adjustment. These choices compound until transformation becomes inevitable. Remember, while you listen, your English fluency is improving naturally. You are learning patterns, structure, and comprehension effortlessly while simultaneously understanding realistic, practical self-improvement strategies. Knowledge and better thinking compound quietly, strengthening both your mind and your life. People fail because they chase shortcuts. Motivation fades, excitement passes. Only consistent, intentional action produces results. Tiny steps, repeated daily, create unstoppable momentum. Ego is another hidden trap. Pride, fear of judgment, or need to appear strong blocks reflection. Let go. Observe honestly. Accept responsibility. Humility is where real growth begins. Finally, remember this. Quiet consistency is the true engine of transformation. Progress is rarely dramatic. Small, repeated actions, reflection, and intentional decisions build transformation over months and years. One day, looking back, you'll realize you are calmer, wiser, and stronger. Self-improvement is not about effort alone. It's about awareness, reflection, action, and consistency. Fix small patterns, act intentionally, manage energy, observe reactions, and reflect daily. Master these, and growth becomes inevitable. Most people think that improvement is about doing more, but the reality is almost the opposite. True improvement begins when you stop doing what doesn't serve you. Let me explain. Every day, we are bombarded with tasks, distractions, and obligations that feel urgent but are often meaningless. Checking your phone, reacting to messages, following gossip, worrying about things you cannot control. These small decisions may seem harmless, but over time, they define your energy, focus, and results. There was a young man named Karen who wanted to grow. He read books, watched videos, and tried different self-improvement methods. He made detailed plans, yet he felt frustrated every evening. He couldn't understand why he wasn't progressing. One day, he decided to track his energy instead of his actions. He noticed that small distractions, scrolling social media for 10 minutes, responding impulsively to emails, engaging in unnecessary debates, sapped his energy more than the tasks he considered hard. That realization changed everything. Growth isn't just about doing more. It is about doing less of what drains you and more of what matters. Another mistake people make is chasing excitement instead of results. Motivation is fleeting. Some days you feel pumped, other days you feel low. Most people confuse high-energy moments with progress. They try to act only when motivated. But real growth is built in our low-energy, ordinary days. The days when you act even without excitement. Karan learned that small, consistent steps, repeated daily, mattered far more than bursts of effort. Energy management is another invisible key to improvement. Your attention and focus are limited. Every distraction, emotional reaction, or wasted moment chips away at your ability to grow. People underestimate this. They blame external circumstances, yet the truth is that how you manage your attention and energy determines the pace of your growth. Guard your mind as fiercely as you guard your most valuable possessions. Habits are another silent factor. People often overcomplicate self-improvement, thinking they need massive routines. But growth is almost entirely about habits, the small actions repeated every day without fail. A simple habit done consistently outweighs sporadic, intense effort. Karan realized that instead of trying 10 new habits, he would master one small, effective habit at a time. The results, when compounded over months, were extraordinary. Most people fail because they ignore reflection. Life moves fast. Decisions, reactions, and choices happen continuously. Without reflection, mistakes repeat silently. People assume that if they are trying hard, that is enough. But trying hard without learning is wasted energy. Reflection allows you to understand why you acted a certain way, how you could improve, and what small adjustments lead to better results tomorrow. Let me tell you a story. A woman named Annika tried to follow multiple self-help programs simultaneously. She was doing a lot, but nothing seemed to stick. She felt exhausted, like she was running in place. One day, she began reflecting at the end of each day, asking herself, where did I react unnecessarily? Where did I waste energy? What could I do differently tomorrow? Within weeks, she noticed small improvements. Actions that had seemed automatic now became intentional. Reflection turned effort into growth. Another hidden reason for failure is fear of discomfort. Growth is rarely comfortable. It involves facing unpleasant emotions, acknowledging mistakes, and challenging yourself quietly. Most people avoid discomfort. They procrastinate, distract themselves, or look for easy alternatives. But avoiding discomfort ensures stagnation. Real improvement requires willingness to face the uncomfortable daily, with awareness and patience. Consistency is another overlooked factor. Motivation and excitement are unreliable. Without a system of consistency, even the most dedicated people fail. Karan realized that he didn't need massive inspiration. He needed a simple, repeatable routine, anchored to small actions he could do daily. Over time, these tiny actions built momentum, confidence, and clarity. Consistency was the hidden engine behind every success story he admired. Another mistake is seeking validation externally. People look for praise, likes, compliments, or recognition as a measure of success. But external validation is temporary. Real growth comes from internal validation, keeping promises to yourself, following through on commitments, and acting according to your values. External approval may fade, but self-respect compounds quietly over years. Most people fail because they overestimate dramatic change and underestimate slow growth. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or a sudden breakthrough. Rarely does life work that way. Improvement is almost always incremental. Tiny corrections, small adjustments, repeated consistently over time. Karan realized that small changes that seem invisible today would compound into significant transformation months or years later. Another subtle trap is letting ego control choices. Pride, fear of judgment, and the desire to appear competent prevent honest self-assessment. Ego stops reflection, prevents adaptation, and hides weaknesses from view. Let go of ego. Observe honestly. Admit mistakes. Growth thrives on humility, awareness, and curiosity, not pride or defensiveness. Many people also fail because they ignore the compound effect of small decisions. Skipping one workout, procrastinating one task, reacting impulsively once, these seem minor. Yet repeated daily or weekly, these small choices dictate the trajectory of life. Compound effect works both ways. Small good actions repeated consistently improve your life exponentially. Small bad actions repeated consistently erode it quietly but powerfully. Another hidden factor is the quality of your social environment. People underestimate how others shape behavior, habits, and thinking. Surrounding yourself with negative, reactive, or lazy individuals slows growth. Conversely, those who are calm, intentional, and growth-oriented inspire you to adopt the same behaviors. Your environment influences your energy, attention, and focus more than most people realize. Let me give an example. Rohan wanted to improve his productivity and mindset. He worked hard but didn't progress. Then he started spending time with friends who were disciplined, reflective, and intentional. He noticed that he naturally started adopting their habits, pausing before reacting, focusing on meaningful work, and reflecting on small mistakes. The environment subtly shifted his energy, making growth inevitable. Another reason people fail is focusing on too many goals at once. Spreading attention across dozens of objectives dilutes energy, focus, and action. Karan learned to focus on one key improvement at a time. He would track progress, reflect daily, and refine small steps. The results, when compounded over months, were far greater than scattered efforts across multiple areas. Patience is often ignored. Most people want instant results. They start programs, attempt new habits, or follow advice but quit when changes aren't visible immediately. Growth is rarely dramatic. It is built quietly, day by day, in moments that seem insignificant. Karan understood that patience allowed momentum to build invisibly. And eventually the results became undeniable. Another mistake is reacting emotionally instead of thinking clearly. Every day, countless situations provoke anger, frustration, or fear. Reacting impulsively creates chaos, drains energy, and slows progress. But observing the emotion, pausing, and responding intentionally builds strength, clarity, and calm. Emotional management is a skill few master, yet it is essential for meaningful self-improvement. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. She would often react immediately to criticism, conflicts, and stressful situations. Her energy was drained, and she struggled to focus on growth. Once she started pausing, observing emotions, and responding intentionally, she noticed clarity, productivity, and calm energy increasing steadily. Small daily changes compounded into major personal growth. Another hidden factor is the illusion of progress. People assume that being busy equals improvement. Reading, planning, watching, thinking. They can feel productive but not lead to growth if actions are not aligned with understanding. True improvement is measured by results, emotional control, focus, better habits, and intentional choices, not by busyness or appearance of effort. Finally, most people fail because they ignore self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of every improvement. Observing patterns, reactions, thoughts, and habits allows you to correct mistakes before they compound. Without it, people repeat the same behaviors unconsciously, wondering why their life isn't improving. Self-awareness is the starting point of real, lasting growth. Most people fail at self-improvement because they underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. They focus on dramatic changes, overnight transformations, and extreme routines. But real growth is invisible at first. It's built quietly, step by step, day by day. Let me explain why this matters more than effort or motivation. Imagine planting a seed. You water it, care for it, and let it grow. At first, you see nothing. Weeks pass, and the soil looks the same. Some people give up, assuming the seed is dead. But under the surface, roots are forming. Tiny growth is happening every day. By the time a small sprout appears above the soil, months of invisible progress have already taken place. Self-improvement works the same way. The small daily adjustments you make today, pausing before reacting, reflecting on choices, correcting tiny habits, are forming the roots of your growth long before anyone notices. Let me tell you a story about Samir. He wanted to be productive, disciplined, and emotionally balanced. He followed advice from dozens of self-help books, tried new routines, and even created elaborate plans for his day. But every evening he felt exhausted and defeated. Why? Because he was focusing on the crawler's surface-level actions instead of the quarter root patterns controlling his mind. He didn't notice his impulsive reactions, wasted attention, and tiny daily distractions. It wasn't effort that was lacking. It was awareness. Awareness is the hidden force behind progress. Without it, people repeat the same mistakes unconsciously, even when trying hard. Awareness allows you to observe your habits, emotions, and reactions, and identify what truly needs change. Once Samir began noticing where his energy went, when he reacted impulsively, and how small distractions drained him, he could start correcting them. Small changes multiplied over time, creating results that seemed impossible at first. Another reason people fail is they avoid responsibility for small things. People often say, "I work hard, but life isn't fair," or "I tried, but circumstances stopped me." Growth isn't about luck. It's about taking responsibility for the things you can control, however small they seem. Every choice you make, every reaction you have, every task you complete or avoid adds up. Small responsibilities repeated consistently are the foundation of improvement. Ignoring them silently erodes progress. Most people also fail because they react to life instead of acting intentionally. Life constantly tests you. Emails, messages, unexpected problems, criticism, stress. Reacting impulsively creates chaos, drains energy, and slows progress. Acting intentionally, even in small moments, builds discipline and control. Samir learned to pause before responding, to reflect on the emotions and consequences, and then choose the most constructive action. Over time, these tiny adjustments transformed how he handled life. Another hidden factor is fear of being uncomfortable. Growth requires discomfort, facing mistakes, acknowledging weaknesses, confronting fears, and taking responsibility. Most people avoid discomfort. They procrastinate, distract themselves, or seek temporary relief. Avoiding discomfort ensures stagnation. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in the quiet moments when you push yourself to pause, reflect, and act consciously, despite unease. Let me tell you about Anjali. She wanted to improve her focus and emotional control. At first, she avoided situations that felt challenging, conflicts at work, difficult conversations, or emotional triggers. But once she started facing small, uncomfortable moments intentionally, observing her reactions and making small adjustments daily, she began to notice subtle but powerful changes in her life. Patience, reflection, and intentional action created growth she had never experienced before. Another reason people fail is they overestimate the power of motivation. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes like waves. Many people wait for motivation to act, but waiting is wasted time. Real improvement comes from discipline and consistency. Samir started to act even when he felt tired, bored, or unmotivated. He realized that small actions repeated daily, without relying on emotion, produced unstoppable momentum. Motivation may inspire you, but discipline sustains you. People also fail because they underestimate the importance of focus. Attention is energy. When scattered, energy is wasted on meaningless distractions. Social media, gossip, irrelevant debates, and reactive behaviors drain focus silently. Samir learned to protect his attention by prioritizing meaningful actions and ignoring low-value tasks. Focus, compounded over months, produced results far greater than sporadic bursts of effort. Another hidden reason for failure is information overload. Most people consume knowledge endlessly, books, videos, courses, but apply little of it. Knowledge without reflection and action is wasted. True improvement requires applying insights consistently. Samir realized that reading countless books about productivity didn't make him productive. Applying one principle at a time, repeated consistently, made all the difference. Most people fail because they react emotionally to criticism or failure of thoughts. Anger, jealousy, frustration, and fear dictate decisions, drain energy, and prevent reflection. Observing emotions without surrendering to them allows calm, clarity, and intentional action. Emotional mastery is rare, yet essential for meaningful improvement. Let me share a story about Priya. She would get frustrated whenever things didn't go her way. Her productivity suffered, and she felt stuck. Once she started pausing before reacting, reflecting on her emotions, and acting intentionally, she began seeing subtle but steady changes in her focus, energy, and results. Small, repeated adjustments made her more calm and productive than any dramatic change ever could. Another overlooked reason for failure is chasing shortcuts. People want immediate results and believe they can skip fundamentals, but real improvement requires daily small steps, reflection, and intentional action. Every shortcut attempt produces temporary results at best and long-term frustration at worst. Samir understood that sustainable growth is built quietly and steadily. Another trap is ego and pride. People often avoid self-assessment, reflection, and correction because it hurts pride. They fear admitting mistakes, thinking it makes them weak. But humility is essential for growth. Only when you observe honestly, acknowledge mistakes, and adjust intentionally do changes compound. Ego silently destroys potential if unchecked. Consistency is another invisible key. Small, repeated actions build momentum, confidence, and clarity. Sporadic effort creates chaos and frustration. Samir realized that even tiny actions done consistently were more powerful than massive but irregular efforts. Consistency quietly compounds into transformation over months and years. Most people fail because they ignore self-awareness. Observing thoughts, reactions, and habits allows early corrections. Without self-awareness, people repeat mistakes unconsciously, wondering why life doesn't improve. Self-awareness is the foundation of intentional growth. Samir learned that without understanding his triggers, habits, and energy patterns, effort alone was wasted. Finally, growth is quiet, incremental, and invisible. People expect dramatic results and quit when they don't see them. But over months and years, small intentional adjustments, repeated daily, compound into major transformations. The roots grow silently before the visible tree emerges. This is how true improvement works, through small, deliberate, and consistent actions, not through temporary bursts of energy or motivation. Most people fail at self-improvement because they underestimate the subtle forces that control their life. It's not just about motivation, effort, or reading books. It's about small, invisible habits, reactions, and patterns that repeat daily. These forces silently define your energy, your focus, your decisions, and ultimately your results. Understanding them is the first step toward real growth. Take the example of Raj. He followed every self-help tip he could find. He meditated, exercised, journaled, read, and planned every day. Yet months later, he felt exhausted, unfulfilled, and stuck. Why? because he was only changing surface-level actions, not addressing the hidden patterns controlling his reactions, attention, and choices. Growth requires digging deeper than routines. You must observe, reflect, and adjust your underlying habits. Another reason people fail is the illusion of busyness. Many equate being busy with being productive, but busyness alone doesn't produce results. Raj would spend hours planning, reading, and researching, thinking he was improving. But he wasn't applying insights, correcting mistakes, or reflecting on his choices. He was trapped in activity, not progress. Real improvement comes from intentional action, aligned with understanding, not endless movement. People also fail because they ignore delayed consequences. Tiny choices repeated daily, reacting impulsively, wasting time, avoiding responsibilities, compound over months and years. The effects are almost invisible at first, which makes them easy to ignore. But eventually, these small decisions create patterns that either accelerate growth or reinforce stagnation. Raj learned to notice these patterns, pause before acting, and make small adjustments daily. Over time, he could see the difference clearly. Another hidden reason for failure is relying on motivation instead of discipline. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Many wait for the perfect mood, energy, or inspiration to act, but life doesn't wait. Discipline is what sustains progress when motivation fades. Raj started acting consistently, even on days he felt tired, bored, or unmotivated. Small actions, repeated daily without relying on emotion, created unstoppable momentum. Focus is another invisible force that determines success. Most people underestimate how much attention influences growth. Every distraction, social media, gossip, minor tasks, drains energy silently. Raj realized that protecting his focus and directing attention toward meaningful actions amplified his results far beyond sporadic, intense effort. Another subtle trap is ego and pride. People avoid self-assessment because admitting mistakes feels uncomfortable. Ego prevents honest observation and reflection, which silently sabotages growth. Raj learned that humility allows you to see your patterns clearly, accept responsibility, and correct mistakes. True improvement thrives on awareness and humility, not pride or defensiveness. Many people fail because they try to fix too much at once. Spreading attention across multiple goals dilutes energy and slows results. Raj started focusing on one critical habit at a time. He tracked progress, reflected daily, and refined small steps consistently. Over months, these small actions compounded into major transformation. Simplicity and focus were more powerful than scattered effort. Another overlooked reason is reacting emotionally instead of thinking clearly. Fear, anger, frustration, and impatience silently control decisions. Every impulsive reaction drains energy and slows growth. Raj learned to pause, reflect, and choose intentional responses. Emotional control became a skill that allowed him to act consistently and effectively, creating compound results over time. Self-awareness is another hidden key. Most people live on autopilot, repeating the same mistakes unconsciously. Raj began observing his habits, reactions, and decisions daily. This awareness allowed him to adjust small behaviors consistently. Even minor corrections compounded into remarkable changes over months. Self-awareness is the foundation of lasting improvement. Another reason people fail is seeking external validation. Praise, recognition, or approval can feel rewarding, but it's temporary. Real growth comes from internal validation, keeping promises to yourself, following through on commitments, and acting according to values. Raj shifted his focus from what others thought to what he knew was right. Over time, this self-respect became the engine of consistent growth. People also fail because they underestimate the power of patience. Growth rarely happens overnight. Instant results are an illusion. Tiny, consistent improvements compound quietly until transformation becomes visible. Raj understood that being patient, even when progress seemed slow, allowed momentum to build naturally and quietly. Another subtle mistake is overconsumption of information without application. Knowledge alone doesn't produce change. Raj had books, courses, and advice from mentors, but nothing changed until he applied the principles consistently. True growth comes when insights are implemented intentionally and repeatedly, not just stored in memory. Distraction is another silent killer. Most people underestimate how much energy is lost to minor interruptions, unimportant tasks, and mental clutter. Raj began protecting his attention rigorously. He avoided unnecessary noise, focused on meaningful actions, and reflected daily on how he spent his energy. Over time, this focus amplified his results far more than random bursts of effort could ever do. Another reason for failure is avoiding discomfort. Real growth is uncomfortable. Facing mistakes, acknowledging weaknesses, and challenging yourself quietly every day is necessary. Avoiding discomfort leads to stagnation. Raj embraced small discomforts intentionally, pausing before reacting, completing tasks he disliked, and reflecting on failures. These tiny daily acts compounded into major improvement over time. Consistency remains the invisible engine of growth. Sporadic effort produces little. Repeated, intentional actions produce momentum, confidence, and mastery. Raj realized that tiny habits, repeated consistently over months, led to more transformation than dramatic but irregular effort ever could. Another reason people fail is neglecting reflection. Daily observation of actions, choices, and results allows adjustments before mistakes compound. Raj began reflecting every evening. What did he do well? Where could he improve? Which reactions drained his energy? Reflection transformed his effort into actionable growth, creating exponential results over time. Finally, people fail because they ignore the invisible power of compounding. Small, intentional actions repeated daily multiply quietly into significant transformation. Small mistakes repeated daily erode progress silently. Growth is the product of small, deliberate adjustments, patience, and awareness. Raj understood that the journey is quiet, subtle, and almost invisible, but consistent effort ensures transformation over months and years. By now, you can probably see why so many people fail at self-improvement despite working hard, reading books, watching videos, and trying every method under the sun. The truth is, growth isn't about doing more, pushing harder, or following every trendy advice out there. Growth is about awareness, small consistent actions, reflection, and intentional decisions. Let me tell you a story about Varun. He was motivated, disciplined, and tried to implement multiple self-help strategies at once. But after months, he felt exhausted, frustrated, and stuck. Nothing seemed to change. What he didn't quite realize was that the real change wasn't in adding more routines. It was in observing patterns, correcting small mistakes, and focusing on what truly mattered. Once he started reflecting on his daily choices, pausing before reacting, and making small but intentional adjustments, he began to see subtle improvements. Over time, those small improvements accumulated into dramatic, life-changing results. One of the most common mistakes people make is chasing external results without fixing internal patterns. You might wake up early, read a book, meditate, or exercise, but if your mind is reactive, your habits are inconsistent, and your energy is scattered, these actions produce little real growth. Growth is not about checking boxes. It's about changing the way you think, react, and act consistently. Another hidden reason for failure is letting emotions control your life. Fear, anger, frustration, and impatience silently shape your choices, often without your awareness. Every impulsive reaction drains energy and slows progress. True improvement comes from observing emotions, pausing, and responding intentionally. Varun learned to catch himself reacting emotionally and started making conscious choices instead. This simple but profound adjustment slowly transformed his life. Patience is another key factor. Most people quit when results aren't immediate. But self-improvement is rarely instant. Small, intentional actions repeated daily compound quietly until transformation becomes undeniable. Varun began appreciating the invisible progress, trusting the process, and acting consistently even when he felt discouraged. Over months, those small adjustments added up to significant change. Distraction is another silent killer. Most people underestimate how much time and energy is lost to minor interruptions, unnecessary tasks, and mental clutter. Varun began protecting his focus, prioritizing meaningful tasks, and eliminating distractions. This not only improved his productivity, but also strengthened his discipline and energy. Another reason people fail is overconsumption of knowledge without application. Reading books, watching videos, or learning techniques feels productive, but knowledge without action produces nothing. Varun realized that implementing one principle consistently was more powerful than learning 10 new concepts without practicing them. Action, reflection, and repetition create true growth. Most people also fail because they seek shortcuts and instant results. They try methods that promise rapid transformation, chasing motivation or hype, but shortcuts rarely work. Sustainable improvement is built quietly, day by day, with consistent, intentional effort. Varun embraced slow progress and discovered that patience and consistency were far more powerful than any temporary burst of effort. Consistency is the hidden engine behind growth. Tiny, repeated actions, like observing reactions, reflecting on decisions, and taking intentional steps, build momentum over months and years. Sporadic effort produces minimal results. Varun realized that small habits repeated consistently were the real secret behind transformation. Another mistake is relying on external validation. Praise, recognition, or approval feels rewarding, but it's temporary. True growth comes from internal validation, keeping promises to yourself, acting according to your values, and respecting your own commitments. Varun shifted focus from external approval to self-respect, which strengthened his confidence and consistency. Self-trust is essential. Confidence is not built from one-time success. It is built by following through on commitments, acting intentionally, and correcting mistakes. Every fulfilled promise strengthens trust in yourself. Every broken promise erodes it. Varun learned that maintaining self-trust was the foundation for lasting improvement. Another hidden factor is ego and pride. People often avoid honest self-assessment to protect their ego. Pride prevents reflection, adaptation, and correction. Varun embraced humility, observed honestly, admitted mistakes, and adjusted daily. This openness created space for genuine growth that motivation or effort alone could never provide. Finally, Varun realized that quiet, incremental growth is far more powerful than dramatic changes. Small adjustments repeated consistently, reflection, intentional action, emotional management, and focus compounded over time. Day by day, month by month, these subtle improvements created extraordinary results. What had seemed impossible initially became inevitable. And now, as you've followed this journey through the story, examples, and practical explanations, remember that your growth depends on awareness, consistent action, reflection, and intentional choices. Small, quiet adjustments repeated over time will shape your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more content like this, content that teaches you practical self-improvement, better thinking, and growth while improving your English naturally, please subscribe to my channel. Together, we will continue learning, growing, and improving, step by step, quietly, but powerfully.